Action!
All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of All Talk. My name is Mike All. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm really excited about this comedian, actor-comedian that we have on today. I first met him back in like 2007, 2008 in New York. He's LA based now. He's been on a ton of different shows. He's been on Gotham, Unbreakable with Kimmy Schmidt, all kinds of stuff. He's got a great comedy album out now called Comedy Mixtape 1, and he's also got the Weird AF News podcast. Please welcome Jonesy. What's going on, Jonesy?
Hey, Mike, thank you for having me. It's good to see you. It's been a long, long time. Your audience should know the circumstances in which I met you, and that was you were performing comedy quite a bit at that time. So yeah,
I was.
Yeah, I think I had you on one of my shows at maybe more than one, Eastville Comedy Club, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, on was it 4th Street, 3rd Street in the East Village? Yeah, that was a special
Street,
time.
East Village. Yeah,
that club has since moved to Brooklyn. No longer there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. There is still a comedy club in that location. The New York Comedy Club purchased or took over the space, and the same room is there. The stage is in the same spot, and so comedy does happen in that little basement where we met.
Yeah, it was a little basement. And it was cool. I always remember I think it might have been the first time that I met you. You were like you were at the end of the bar. There's no one there. And I thought you were just talking to yourself, and essentially you were. And I asked you, I came up and I was like, hey, what's going on? You're like, oh, I'm just practicing some voiceover stuff. We had a voiceover audition or work on something. I was like, what is it? And you just looked at me and you go, terms and conditions may apply. Like that's all.
That's what I said.
That's what you said.
Terms and conditions make apply. That's funny. Yeah, that's what I was doing a lot of that back then. Oh, I must have seemed like a crazy person. Holy shit.
Not any crazier than anybody else, but
yeah.
That was a cool little room. Yeah, we worked together there several times, and so that I think that was 2007, 2008.
Sounds about right.
You're originally from Boston, correct?
Correct, yes.
At that point, how long had you been in New York?
When you met me, I had been in New York about 4 years.
Oh, wow. How long?
Yeah, 3-4 years. Yeah. 2008-ish. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Yeah, so I moved out in 2007. Yeah, okay. So. Oh, wow. And then I believe you were still at the time in a Chili Peppers cover band.
Remember that too?
I remember that too.
Wow, yeah. I was singing in a Red Hot Chili Pepper cover band called Pepper Spray. And I named it, by the way. So proud of that name. You know, it took some convincing to get the other guys to agree, but I was like, trust me, guys, this is great. This is the name we want.
I can't believe that took convincing. Pepper Spray is great.
Right? I thought it was amazing, but I guess they didn't, I don't know. Some people don't have a sense of humor, man. So yeah, I was in Pepper Spray at that time. So I was performing comedy, doing voiceovers, and singing in that band. Life was great in New York City back then for me, man. What a crazy life. I look back on that like, wow, that was nuts. Yeah, Pepper Spray, man. I'm so flattered that you remembered that. Yeah, thank you, man. I recently, last year, or maybe it was the year, I think it was last year, I'm out in Los Angeles. I saw an ad for a singer for a Red Hot Chili Pepper cover band. So I answered the ad, and of course, I have all this footage of me in this band from back in the day. Right. You know, we were very good. It was a long time ago, but we were very good. And I sent them some videos, and they gave me an audition, and I got the gig. And it was for a band called the Red Knot Chili Peppers. Right? Pretty good, right?
Okay.
So they're the biggest Chili Pepper cover band in the world. They go to Japan. They travel the entire country. They make big money. They play large spaces. It wasn't like my band back in New York where we were just doing bars mostly. This is a big deal. It's making money. So I actually got the gig, and I was like, this is great. I'll make some extra money. And I know all the songs already for the most part. I mean, I had to brush up on them, but
sure.
And since then, the Chili's have come out with another album. I had to kind of familiarize myself with some of that. And I did one show in San Diego and then got fired because, check this out, because I didn't talk like Anthony Kiedis on stage.
What?
Well, yeah, they wanted me. My singing was decent, and I didn't screw it up, but I guess I didn't act like him enough. They wanted me to talk like him as well. You know, he talks with a lisp. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah,
but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he talks with a lisp, and I wasn't doing that. But I didn't know I had to do that. I mean, I just thought I had to know the lyrics and knew, I don't know. I just use it now as a funny story. But yeah, I did one show with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they canned me because I don't talk with a lisp on stage. I probably shouldn't have been talking as much as I did. I mean, I was talking a lot between songs, but I'm a comedian. Yeah. I'm just working the crowd. I'm working the crowd, baby. And in my defense, they were enjoying it. I had good jokes, but I guess I should have added a lisp and kept the job. I didn't.
So do you know the singer that they have now, or have you kept up with them all or anything?
Well, at the time that I did the gig, they already had a guy, and I was going to be the new guy to slowly replace him because they had disagreements with him. So they already have a guy, but they're just not. They weren't at the time. They weren't that crazy about him. So they were bringing on another guy to let's see if we can do it with somebody else. And so I assume they just went back with the other guy who clearly can speak with a lisp very well, apparently.
You didn't realize it was part of the deal. I really filled you in, giving you a heads up, right?
I mean, shouldn't I have been given a heads up with that? I mean, come on with that, Jesus. I mean, maybe they didn't expect me to talk so much. Maybe that's what it was.
So I will not ask you to sing, but I will ask you, what is your favorite Pepper song to sing?
Okay, well, I was thinking about this the other day because it came on the radio. The song is you'll hear it, but a lot of people don't go to it. I have two favorite Pepper Spray songs, but this one came on I was driving around and it just came on the radio, and I still listen to the radio occasionally. It's nice to surprise yourself, It's a Soul to Squeeze. Do you know this song?
No.
It's Where I Go, I Just Don't Know.
Okay.
I've gotta take it. That one. It's kind of a slower one. I really love that song. It's such a pretty song. I love the melody. I like some of the fast ones too, but that Soul to Squeeze song I really like. It wasn't on any album. It was believe it or not, it was on the Coneheads soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah. And then it made it onto their greatest hits album, I think, as well. But it was a song that they wrote for the movie Coneheads, and I just love it. It's fabulous.
It's a good song. It's funny with me musically. Like, I was big into music coming up until the mid 90s. So I'm 45, just going to give you a reference. So mid 90s, I'm in my early 20s, and right around 96, 97, my wall, remember, did you ever have the old pen board that you would put concert tickets and shit like that on?
Yeah, I did.
Or just throw them in the drawer. Right around then is where my concert tickets started turning into stand-up tickets. I started getting into that. And so I started spending all my time and money and everything watching comedy instead of watching music. But I was never as soon as you started singing the song, I knew the song, but I never learned of the titles. I was never into I know the name or I know the drummer or whatnot. I'll know a couple of people. Are you that kind of, not just obviously with the Chili Peppers you are, but are you that kind of music person in general? If some band comes on, you might not know the whole band, but you'll know the names of their songs and stuff.
I don't have the time that I used to to dive into that, but I did. I was so into music coming up that I would go and I would read books about the bands, and even before I was be on the internet. I mean, I'd be, you get a CD and you're reading the inside jacket and you're learning all the players, all the guys' names, and I got really into some bands. Currently, we've all been blessed with the documentaries that are now out for all these bands. Like, it's very, the cost to make a film now is just dropped to the point where you can find a documentary on anything that you're interested in. There'll be something online that you can watch. And so I really find myself being drawn to musical documentaries. I just watched that Beastie Boys documentary because I'm a big Beastie Boys fan. So Spike Jonze just did one, and I ate that thing up, man. I loved it. I've been listening to the Beasties for the last couple weeks after I've watched this documentary. And I highly recommend it, by the way. It's a unique display. They did something very different that I hadn't seen in a documentary before, the way they presented it. So, but I like that I like the stories in there. I like the biographies. I like the stories behind the songs, especially, I don't know if this happens anymore, but when we were listening to music when we were kids and coming up, albums meant something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the art on an album could make or break an album.
The art, everything, and we would get an album and we would listen to the whole thing. I mean, that doesn't really happen anymore. People are taking their artists in very small bite-sized singles, it seems like to me, and very rarely, you get people who's really listening to the entire album of whoever that comes out now. I mean, some rabid fans will, of course, like the new Tool album comes out. Tool fans are so insane, they're going to listen to the whole thing. But, a lot of other artists, the newer artists, they, it's like, who's listening to Mac Miller's entire album? Who does that? I don't know. I mean, I think we all know the singles, but do we know everything? There's a few exceptions to, Kendrick Lamar's album a couple of years ago, for sure. Any Kanye. But when we were coming up, every album was like that, right? You couldn't, you would just go buy the whole CD. You couldn't just buy one song off iTunes. You went and bought the whole fucking CD. And so those albums became like that album. These albums hold a place in our own biography, because it's like, oh, the summer that album came out, this is who I was hanging out with. This is what I was doing. You're like, oh, that Alice in Chains album, when that came out, I was hanging with these people and these people. That Pearl Jam album, when Beastie Boys' Check Your Head came out, this is who I was hanging out with. The Ill Communication album, I know where I was, and I listened to that for an entire summer. That is something that's that I don't think you see anymore in the music industry. So, and it comes with a story. So when I watched that Beastie Boys album, the story behind the creation of each album was also fascinating, and I don't know if artists, if people have the same reaction anymore. Like when you hear how they made Paul's Boutique, where it came from, when you hear how they made Check Your Head, where it came from, Ill Communication, same thing. License to Ill, when you're like, oh, how did that album come about? Who's, and you're just like, to us, albums meant something. And I think that's something.
I think it's gone. So
I think so.
So first of all, I know most of their catalog when it comes to the Beastie Boys. Paul's Boutique is by far my favorite.
I love Paul's Boutique.
Paul's Boutique is amazing. Also around Beastie. That Beastie Boys documentary, I haven't seen it yet, but I've been telling my wife, as soon as Apple put out their own Apple Plus or whatever it is they're calling it, I was like, I'm not getting it. We got Netflix, we got Prime, we've got Disney Plus because of the kids. Like, I don't need another service. And then they put out the documentary and it was only on Apple, and I'm like, shit, now I got to get Apple. So I signed up for it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you did sign up for it though? Yeah.
I did sign up for it, yeah. Because the first year's free or whatever. But along that story, you said something that was interesting to me. You keep talking about how, like, the stories behind those albums and how they were made. Yeah. And I want to let you go a little bit on this. I'm going to kind of ask two questions. The first one is, you talk about, like, they don't have a whole lot of that nowadays anymore. I wonder if that's because of the cost that goes into it. Like now it's such a money saving. And then the other kind of question I wanted to go back on top of that is you talk about like I said, the biography and the making of it and everything. Did that play into your wanting to be an actor and in the way that you like develop your characters when you're thinking about stuff, when you're writing a sketch or when you're going to audition? You pull back to those times of like the albums and those stories drive that? Or was there like books growing up or TV shows growing up that kind of drew you? Or is it just kind of a mix of all of that?
So your question is, what is it that, where do I draw my imagination from as an actor?
Yeah. Did you feel that, like when you were reading those biographies, when you're going through and you're reading those stories, you're reading all those things about how they get that made, does that draw you to your own character development?
Not really as an actor, I would say. No, I did, use music in my acting and still do. It'd be nice to get some work now, but on a set, I will, if I got some sort of scene, like if I got to get upset and I got to cry and it's got to be emotional, I will, up until the moment they say action, I will play a song if it suits me, and I will listen to it until they call. And that's because a song, to me, I'm so sensitive to music. That song, all it needs is a song to put me in a state of being. And then when I'm in that, once I'm in that state of being, and then they hit action, I can do my movements, say my words, and I'm in a state, and the music will take me there. It can take me the other way too if I need to be angry. I mean, I know what to listen to get angry. I know what puts me in that place too. So I will sometimes use music on set, and if the director's cool, I'll put the headphones in right before action, and I'll just let them know, hey, look these are on until you say, and then don't worry, I'm going to hide them because they're always worried about whether they're going to see him in the shot, and I just put them down my pants or whatever the case may be, and make sure that they don't catch them in the shot. Or if I can hand them to somebody, a PA or something, take my phone and my headphones, and now I'm in the scene. I'll do that. And music is, because music can unlock so many emotions, and it can unlock past experiences that
I've been listening to a lot of Rage lately.
Oh, Rage Against the Machine. Man, yeah. I absolutely love Rage Against the Machine. And yeah, Rage will take me to a certain place for sure. Yeah. That first album, all day long. I like Empire of the Sun as well, but that first album is just, forget about it, man. Top to bottom, that whole CD, I just love every song on there, and that'll get me someplace,
Do you do it if you're on set? Do you, and the music comes into your head? Is that Jonesy driven or your character driven? Like, your character's supposed to be mad. Would your character listen to Rage to get mad, or does Jonesy listen to Rage to get mad? Yeah,
Jonesy, I listen to it to get mad. I don't really do that thing with the character. I think that's like putting legs on a snake. I mean, it's just not necessary. No one's going to see that. You can have a performance without having all of that, bringing it with you. To me, it's called acting, man. It's like there's a whole thing surrounding this method thing, and I think, to me, it comes from ego. It's just like a thing that actors want to be actors, but they also want to go like this a little bit too much, and they want a story. They want everybody to think that they're just doing so much to get into this performance. But it's like, Jesus Christ, man, come on, just chill. It's not that hard. You know what's hard? Roofing in August. That's hard. Acting is playing. It's fun. And we've all done it as kids. We've all pretended to be Spider-Man. We didn't sit down and go, all right. I'm going to give me a moment, guys. I have to take myself back to that time where I was bitten by that radioactive spider and my aunt walks into the bedroom. Let me relive this. Let me write my Spider-Man diary on that day that it happened. All right, now I'm ready to play. Are you Batman? Oh, I got my backstory. I'm Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's like you just jump into Spider-Man and you're Spider-Man, you know? And that's the way I approach acting as well. You know, I mean, some people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but I think all that shit is just unnecessary. And like I said earlier, it's like putting legs on a snake. I mean, you know, you have an action as an actor on screen, you know, and I don't want to David Mamet put down acting and to be that simple, because this is what David Mamet would say. Just do what you're supposed to do on screen. It doesn't matter. There's no acting needed. I think there's a little bit more than that. I don't want to go all the way there. But I will say, if you could use your imagination in the moment and do your actions, you don't need to you don't need to go over this 6 days, you know, to get there. You don't have to go and actually be a dentist for a 2 days, you know, then act like a dentist you know what I mean? Like, you know, you could research, of course, you know, but I don't know. I just, this is a lot of pomp and circumstance, and I think it's a way for a lot of actors who really, at the end of the day, aren't doing that much to make it sound like they're doing work.
Right.
You know? I mean, what is this? It's acting. It's not. This isn't work, man. I'm sorry. Actors in Hollywood and shit, they're gonna hate to hear that, but my God, fucking hang out with a plumber all day. That is work. Drag a 450-pound boiler out of a crawl space in New Hampshire in January. That's fucking work. What you're doing is, you know, that's not work. And I will never, because I've seen hard work. I will never call acting all of that. I don't do that. Stand-up comedy, that is work, my man.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I was like, I haven't really done a ton of acting. I've done like a commercial here and there, you know, eons ago. But I was talking with another comedian about the actual work, you know, that goes into being a stand-up comedian. You know, not just it's the writing, it's the, you know, the self-promotion, you know, the getting yourself there, the getting yourself back, the, you know, all of that stuff. So you definitely find it's more of a job than to do the stand-up comedy. I mean, acting's obviously a job. So, but I mean, like the work of the stand-up comedian is harder. So knowing that you have the two there, do you find them both equally as enjoyable? Or is there one you like more? I do notice in a lot of your stuff that you list yourself as an actor comedian, and I was wondering if that was a thought out choice.
No, I only did that because that's the one you hear more of. You hear them flip flop like that. Actor comedian. You hardly ever hear comedian actor. You hear actor comedian more so. I guess it's a cliche. That's why I jumped on it. Which is probably the bad reason to use that. Thanks for pointing that out to me. So yeah, I would say first and foremost that I'm a comedian before I'm an actor. They're so different. I lean a little bit toward stand-up because I have more control. I like to bring more of myself to the creative process and stand-up allows that, because it's all me. I mean, it's my ideas, it's my writing, it's my voice, it's all me all the time. I do like, so stand-up comedy for me is because it's more creative for me. It's a little, and it's oftentimes more thrilling because it's a little scarier to me. I think it's scarier than acting.
Yeah.
Because you're just all alone there, man. You know, and I'm going to be honest, sometimes acting is just so fucking boring, man. It's like a lot of sitting around. I mean, you'll get cast. I mean, I'll go to a set and I'm just sitting for, Jesus Christ, I'll sit for 6 hours just sitting there waiting and shoot my scene. And then I go sit again for another 4 hours. Like, how many times can you go eat donuts and drink coffee at the Crafty? I mean, it just gets so boring, you know, whereas stand up, man, you go, you know, when you're on, you go on, you do your thing for 30, 45 minutes, whatever. And then you're done, you have a drink, you could leave. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. So staying with stand up and acting, I have a question for you. Which is your, I can't get the wording. I've been working on the wording of this question. I haven't been able to get it. Let me see it. Let me just throw it out there. did you have a harder or worse bomb at an audition or on as a stand-up? Which was your worst bomb, like most painful thing?
Oh, well,
I know they're different, but
yeah, stand-up is like that's where the most and worst bombs will happen, hands down. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I seem to audition so well, at least I think I audition pretty well, is that I've bombed hard in front of enormous crowds before. Well, when I say enormous, like 100 to 200 people, maybe a few times more than that. I've bombed really hard, and so then when I go on an audition, it's usually maybe 2 people. So if you make it to the next callback, maybe it's a producer's session, so perhaps there's 3 producers there, maybe a writer there as well. Occasionally a director. So maybe at the most at an audition, you're in front of 7 people. I'm trying to think of what was the most I've ever been in a room. I could bomb in front of 7 people. That is nothing, man. I'll take a risk all day. I am not intimidated or frightened performing in front of 7 people. I've been, I've felt ultimate humiliation and embarrassment in front of 100+ people before. When you just want to crawl under a rock and you can't. You look at your watch and you got 15 more minutes. You got to be out there. I mean, you bomb at the audition. They want you out of there. They're like, okay, bye. And you're like, oh, and you're gone, Try bombing and then having to sit there for another 10 minutes and yeah, let's keep I'll keep talking.
It's also going to be harder when you bomb with the stand-up over the audition because like that's your expression. That's your material.
Yeah,
that's what you put in and acting at someone else's words, right?
Correct.
I mean, most of the people that they see that day in the audition are gonna fail. Most of them that they see, right? When you're a stand-up comedian, there's only 3 of you, maybe 4 on the show.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And you said it, so it hurts on another level too, as a comedian, because it is your material. It's a lot of times you feel like you're being rejected completely, which you don't really feel that at the audition. You just feel like, oh, I fucked up the words or what, like, I should have. Usually it's just a choice. I made a bad choice. I should have did this instead. I did this, or I forgot a line. Fuck, But I never walk out of there going, oh, they hate me. They hate my ideas. They hate what I'm about. I never feel that when I walk out of an audition, but I felt that, a few times during the stand-up career. Yeah, you feel you take it more personally for sure. Until you don't. I'm at the point now where I've been on stage 10,000 times or whatever the hell it is, and I don't take it so hard anymore. I'm more easy to brush my shoulders off and move on than I ever was. But it took me years to get there, and a lot of pain and bombing for sure.
Are you there in your writing and directing of any of those? You've got a ton of clips up on YouTube and stuff that you've done. Like if you put one up and you're like, shit, this thing doesn't have hardly any views or whatever, do you take that the same way that you would bombing on stand-up, or is it a different? Because it's not really bombing, but you're still not maybe getting the response that you had wanted, and you wrote and directed that.
Yeah, well, I was just I noticed. I thought about this the other day because I went to. I had a reason to go look up a video that I made. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. I made this video, and it was a funny video. I thought it was funny, and when I went back to look at it, I was surprised to see that it only had 21 views on YouTube, which isn't I have 1,100 subscribers, not many, but I just thought like more than 20 people would have watched that. It's pretty funny,
right?
So then I reshared it on Facebook, like, hey guys, here's something I want to just put out there again. I recently came across it and I think it's funny. Check it out, But I don't take it as personally. I understand that when you're dealing with content on the internet, we're just completely inundated with so many choices that the fact that you're not standing out in the crowd, it's not always for reasons of your shitty material or your creations are awful. It's just that difficult to capture people's attention because of the amount of available entertainment on our phones, on our lap, whatever. I mean, all the streaming services, YouTube videos. I mean, what is there? 1 million minutes of YouTube videos being uploaded every hour or some ridiculous thing. So like, to me, at this point, I don't take that stuff too seriously, at all. I realize what I'm up against, and,
right.
And by the way, and usually, I don't make those YouTube videos. Like if you go to jonesy.com and you click on videos, these are all comedy videos, sketches that I wrote and directed and often star in that I've made in the past. I don't know. Well, since I've been in LA for the past year and a half or whatever, most of them are within a year, 2 years old only.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. That's fun for me. That's what I do for fun. I get together with my buddies. Hey, I wrote this thing. I'm coming over. So-and-so is going to meet us here and we're going to shoot this thing. It's my friends oftentimes. I love to write and shoot and edit and act in things and have fun with my friends. So to me, at the end of the day, if it only has 20 views, as like this piece did that I'm referring to, I had so much fun making it that was the reward, at the end of the day. So I don't mind at all, If you insult my stand-up, sometimes I can't help but kind of take that person. I spend a lot more time at that, and I do that to go, that's kind of I care about that a lot more, and I'm trying to get ahead with that. But the videos that was a weekend fun, thing,
Right.
I love it.
One of the ones that I watched that I thought was great was your Bostonian jaywalking. It was one of the little videos that you did.
And the guy gets hit by the car.
Yeah, gets hit by the car.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that stuck out to me and I liked it so much is, I don't know, probably 15 years ago or so, I was out in LA visiting a cousin. And I was out there for work and I stayed a couple extra days with my cousin. And he's originally from Oklahoma like I am, but he's been out in LA forever and he's a California guy now. And we go out bar hopping and he's got a guy, like a cab, that he calls the same guy every time that comes and picks us up. And one time we're going to another bar and he's like, he said it's going to be like 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, fuck that. And there's like a cab driving down the street. And I like walk out into the street, start waving. He's like, what are you doing? He starts yelling at me. I'm like, waving down a fucking cab, man. Like, what do you mean what I'm doing? He's like, no, that's not how it works here. Like, that you don't walk out in the street. You don't do any of that stuff. I was like, what? What do you mean you don't walk out in the street and hail a cab? It was so weird, man. I'm sure it had to be weird for you because Boston and New York, like, that's how it's done, man. You just walk out and the loudest one gets the ride.
So, anybody who tells you when they move to LA from elsewhere, one of the things that will surprise them is when they find out that you will get a ticket you could get a ticket for jaywalking. Now it's a low chance. I've never got one and I jaywalk all the time out here, but you will, eventually in your travels, you will meet people and you'll hear anecdotes about people getting these tickets. They're like, I've even heard the amount is $300, $350 for jaywalking. So I've heard the stories, and that's where the idea of the video all came from. Is like in my disbelief that this is ridiculous that I got to wait when there's no cars coming. Back in Boston, back in New York, as you know, we don't.
No.
We just go, especially New York, where the pedestrians run the town. They don't wait for a block light. We just go. I mean. So going from New York City to LA, I that was something that always stood out to me. Like, really, you're really going to wait? And so I made this video like, and I'm telling my friend, you're going to wait, you pussy. And then of course I step out in the road and then with some special effects that I created, we make it look like I get hit and my leg goes flying and everything. So see, that was
the blood was right on.
Dude, that kind of stuff was really, that's why I make those things. Like my buddy Andy was so cool. He agreed to let me spray him with blood all over his face, and I didn't know if any of that was going to work. I'd never used like a blood splatter in a severed leg in a video before. This was right around Halloween, so I just went to the dollar store. I bought a fake foot for 99 cents. I bought some fake blood and a little squirting tube, and I added some, corn syrup to it and made it thicker, and I made my own blood, and then we timed it. We timed it I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the squirt, and then I'm going to throw the leg at you. And we did. That was one take. We really. So he had one clean T-shirt, and I could have gave him another one of mine, but he had one T-shirt, and we're like, if you fuck this up, I got to go upstairs to get you another T-shirt. So let's do it in one take. And sure enough, I squirt him and I hit his face, but he still stays. I wanted him to stay look like he's unfazed by me getting hit. And I throw the leg, and the leg happened to hit a good spot too visually. And it just worked out. And and him and I just had a blast doing that. And we were laughing about it afterward. And we kept watching it again. Look at it, look at it, look at it. And so, it's like being a kid again, man. You're creating something, you're playing pretend, those moments are why I make videos with my buddies. I would love someday to make them on a whole other level, the way Adam Sandler can get a budget and employ all his friends, and you can imagine they must have fun and laugh all day long as they make ridiculous things. So I would love that. So this is kind of my way of doing that, on my little level, with no budget, but having a good time.
Yeah. That one cracked me up. I really liked it. And you could tell that you guys had a lot of fun in it. Speaking of the Boston, so we mentioned a couple times, Boston, New York, LA. The first question that I have, I've been to Boston several times. Love Boston. I got a sister that lives just outside of there. I love Mike's Pastries.
Oh yeah,
in the North End. Yeah. But I had somebody recently tell me that there's a place directly across the street. Cannoli's just as good as theirs. Have you ever been to the place? I can't remember the name of it. It's just across the street.
I can't remember that place. I don't. I only remember Mike's Pastry.
God, it's so good. It's
in the
so
North
good.
End. Yeah. Everybody goes down there. Yeah,
everyone goes down there.
I'm so glad that you got to experience that. The North End. For those of you watching and listening who don't know what that is, that's kind of the Italian area of Boston, and so there's an Italian pastry place there that's known for their cannolis and whatnot. And and anyone who visits Boston, should go to this neighborhood. It's quite adorable, and it's very historical, and there's some great food. I mean, all the reasons you should visit a neighborhood. I'm so glad that you got a chance to go there. That's lovely. You made the right choice to go there. A lot of people just want to go to Quincy Market, this kind of place, and they don't venture away from that little center. But you go over to the North End. Yeah, that's it's great over there.
It's a great area over there. So out of the three areas, Boston, New York, LA, I know they're all completely different styles of stand-up and totally different scenes. Boston, I know, it's probably a lot easier to get some longer sets, move around. And, I remember when I first went to New York City, I was, and it's not like I was some beginner when I got there. I was barking at 4:00 in the afternoon on the street trying to get 5 people in so that I could get a minute for each person that I brought in.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure what it is in LA. I've never been in that scene out there. I mean, I've gone out and done a couple of sets, but do you prefer one over the other? Kind of what's your thought on the 3 different scenes?
Well,
knowing that you were at very different points in your career at each one.
Sure. I certainly have a lot more fun when I go back and perform in Massachusetts, just because I can get more stage time. I suppose I'm getting good stage time out here too. What do I like most? I guess definitely not New York anymore. For me, when I go back there, I'm like, it's just too hectic, man. Running around for 5 minutes here and there. And you're telling jokes to tourists a lot of times, and I'm just so done with that shit, man. It's just so hard for me to get all excited to sell my shit to some couple from, wherever, Missouri. Like,
Right.
I'm over it. I didn't really notice that until I left New York, came to LA. Now I notice when I go back to New York and I do shows in Manhattan, most of the time it's tourists. It's fucking tourists. Lame, man. These crowds are lame. I don't get all amped anymore to go back to New York to do shows. When I go back to Boston, I get very amped. I love that. I feel like I can say anything I want on stage. They'll go with me. They understand it's just comedy. I like that. LA crowds, depending on the neighborhood, you could be telling jokes in front of Trump supporters, or you could be telling jokes in front of a bunch of, dog-loving hippies in Venice who don't want you to say anything that's displeasing. So it runs the whole gamut. You got to know in LA, you really got to know what neighborhood you're in, and you got to know the demographic. If you're in the Inland Empire, you don't make fun of Jesus. All right. And if you're in Santa Monica, you don't make fun of dogs. It's like, you got to know the area that you're in. Or, I mean, like I do a bit about why I think it's okay to date a woman with a penis. Like, I don't see the big deal. So fucking what? It's a penis. Everybody's got something annoying. You know what I mean? And like, I found myself, the last time I told that joke in LA, I didn't understand why people weren't laughing. And there's a fucking guy in a dress in the crowd. Like, I don't know what it was, who he is. It's a she, it's a he, whatever the hell he calls himself. But this is what you get in LA, And so you got to know who your audience is. And sometimes you get caught out there. Like, I got caught out there at that show. My whole set was going well. Then that bit, which usually I can sell it. I usually can sell it. I'm pretty smart with it. It's not offensive, but because there was this person in the crowd who was a man in transition to be a woman of some sort. So on some level, no matter what I did or where I went with that bit, the crowd was not going with me. They were watching. They were just like waiting for the approval of this person, before they would show their acceptance of my idea in a public forum. And there's a lot of that, Although I find what you're saying okay and funny, I'm not going to give you a positive reaction. I'm not going to outwardly show you that I accept it and I'm okay with it if I think that someone might be uncomfortable right now. So that's something you got to deal with.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that, because like it makes it almost going to feel like that judginess that me as a comic in Chicago going to, Wichita, worrying about being judged as they're going to be Republicans and right-leaning, and I got to be careful about what I watch about saying that. But there's also that same level of judginess on the coast, right? Like, people like to think like that shaming and that judginess isn't there. It's there. It's, of course, just different.
Yep. And sometimes worse. I really, I'm not crazy about doing shows on, I don't know if you're familiar with the west side of LA, but the west side of LA, Venice, Santa Monica, these are wealthy, predominantly white communities. They like to think of themselves as very liberal and progressive. They're easily offended. I don't like it. My comedy is gritty. It's edgy. And I talk about suffering, and it's not, it ain't, I'm not talking about don't you hate when you got to share an Uber? Ooh, like, I'm not, my jokes are, I've gotten more hard boiled as I get older, and the things that I want to talk about, they have some bite to them. And these communities don't want to hear it, man. So like, and consequently, I don't, if I'm going to one state over, Arizona, this is Trump land. And I'm not crazy about it over there too, because I don't talk about Trump, but, a lot of my ideas aren't accepted by that community either. So,
Yeah.
it can be a struggle. And I think every comic has to ask himself or herself when they begin traveling, doing shows around and experiencing these different crowds and demographics, you have to ask yourself, are you going to stick to your guns? And how do you save yourself when your guns ain't working? Yeah. Do you got some hey, jokes for all ages? I mean, are you going to go into that? I have those bits. I can save myself if I want to. A lot of the bits that I'll just do they're much older. When I was younger and I didn't take any risks. I have those jokes. Do I enjoy telling those jokes? I do not.
No.
So then it's a question of, are you paying me? Am I being paid? Well, then I'll have to dance and I'll have to do those jokes and I'll have to save myself. I will have to get laughs because that's what I'm paid to do. But if you're not paying me, I will go down with the ship and I will take the whole crowd with me. I got no problem doing that.
Do you ever get concerned about going down the ship and taking everybody with you if it's something that's being recorded, like if you're recording it or whatever for any reason, can that have any effect on your acting? And what I mean, not like your character development, anything like that, like we've talked about in the past, but like maybe something that you've said that's a transgender joke that's funny, that's done well, but a producer of something that you're on sees it and is like, I can't have that attached to that.
Sure.
Does any of that bleed into your comedy, or like if it's being recorded in some way, because you've still got at least a toe or three over here in acting where something might come up?
Well, I mean, I'm so beyond that now, because when I was in New York, I've been recorded on camera, as my act developed, it was very bad. And I was experimenting with all sorts of different kinds of jokes. And I was even in an angry place for a little while and I was playing with that, it's already out there, man. Like I've already fucked myself. So like, if you want to take me down, like it's already out. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
I got tweets. I got tweets, man. Yeah. I got tweets going back I've been on Twitter since 2006 or some crazy shit. So, I mean, I got 12 years worth of tweets, and what do you think, there's not some shit in there? Like, I'm done if they want me to be done, I don't.
At that point, they're probably looking for a reason for you to be done, right? I mean,
and it's probably because I've done something good, or, you know what I mean? I'm probably up for a job or something. So yay, something went right for me. Will they take me down with that? That would remain to be seen. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get there because I'm not going to I don't think my career is going to be like a Trevor Noah or anything like that. I mean, if anything, if I had a Doug Stanhope kind of career, I'd be pretty pleased with that. That guy doesn't censor himself. Sure. That guy can sleep at night with the things that he says. And I respect that guy. And I like that kind of comedy. I really do. I like that he's that edgy, and I like that he'll share himself, his deepest secrets, his darkest thoughts, and he doesn't give a damn when anybody thinks. And he's rewarded for that, as he should be, with a fan base that appreciates some goddamn honesty right now, instead of sugarcoating everything. There is a need for that in the culture. Of course. Look at what's going on right now. Okay. Why don't you sugarcoat that? I mean, we're not living in a paradise here. So what's wrong with talking about it? There's nothing wrong with talking about it. In fact, this is a step towards healing in a culture. And that's why comedians should be allowed to have free reign when they're on stage to talk about whatever is going on in the culture, because we are like a thermostat, a cultural thermostat, if you allow us to be. And we will tell you what we think is going on and what is wrong and what is right. And you have a dialogue with us. Your response lets us know do you agree with us or do you not? But the point is there's a dialogue going, and we're really the only ones in real time who can have such a dialogue and get real-time response. So as soon as you start censoring the comedians, I think we have a problem here. We do serve a purpose in the culture. But back to your point, I don't want to limit myself by thinking such things. I think once you start doing that, what are we doing? I got into this to explore the art of stand-up comedy, and I get deeper and deeper in it, and I learn more and more about myself and about this art and this craft. And there's so much to learn. I'm still learning all the time. And if you ask Jerry Seinfeld, he'll tell you he still hasn't quite got this all figured out. He still tries jokes that do not work, and he wonders why, just like me. Why isn't that working? Why isn't that working? Jerry Seinfeld, same thing. Why isn't that working? And we, watch two comedians to break down a joke, man. It's fucking a mystery still, and it's an exciting adventure to try and create and make a joke work on stage, something that comes from you, comes from your soul, from your experience, to share some personal thing, an idea, a point of view, an opinion, something that happened to me. It's a real fun journey to take that from a seed of an idea to watch it flourish on stage into something where other people acknowledge it, they accept it, they laugh about it, and we have a shared, sort of release about what, that experience. And when you start just censoring yourself and don't going to those places, I think, and if you're doing it for like career, what are you doing it for,
I agree.
But, people like Kevin Hart don't have to do stand-up if they don't want to. They have a movie career. So it's just a balance. How much do you like? Some guys get those movies and then they dip away. Like, do you ever even really see Chris Tucker do? Maybe he's back into stand-up. For a long time, he didn't do it anymore. Yeah. Why? He was in movies. And so maybe he didn't love stand-up so much. Maybe he didn't want to explore it like that. I like it that much. If I had all the money in the world, I would still do it. And therefore, I'm never going to put that aside and censor myself because of some other career thing. That's just me.
Do you find yourself now, with everything that's going on, with all the lockdown and everything, are you still writing? Is it a different kind of writing? Is it harder to write? Out of everybody that I've interviewed, it's always different. Some people are like, oh, I'm writing like crazy. Other people are like, I don't want to write about this shit. Like, I can't find anything funny about it. Some people are like, I just writing because I need to fucking write, where do you fall on the gamut?
Well, because I do so much of my creating on stage, I'm not a big like sit down and write in a notebook for an hour a day at stand-up stuff anymore. I got other things to do. So, I like to write a lot of scenes and shorts and screenplays and this kind of thing. And I work on my podcast, which is 5 days a week. So I have not really been working on stand-up so much. Occasionally I'll get an idea and it'll hit me, and then I'll speak it into my phone just to keep it in there. I will revisit it when stand-up gets back on, and I will explore that idea on stage more than likely. But right now I see it as, because I really don't know when it's all coming back, to me, it's like a waste of time. I'd rather work on my podcast or write something that I might be able to shoot with a friend, or I came up with another idea for a podcast that I'm kind of toying with, and so I'm going to produce another podcast. With that said, I did do a show this past week, Wednesday night, in Orange County, which is like kind of the first area to open up around here, because down in Orange County, people don't give a shit. These are the people that were, I told jokes at a beach community where in that area a few weeks ago, people were protesting, residents were protesting the lockdown, and they're holding signs that say like, we want our nail salons open. I mean, like, these are the people I went down to see, I was very surprised to get a call to do a show. I hadn't done a show since March 11th. And I was on a tour in Asia. I don't know if you know, but I was in Singapore, Malaysia.
Wow.
I was in Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and Taiwan from January 20th until March 10th during the virus outbreak. So I was in all the countries when it was break. I was doing shows there. Some were canceled, some were on, but I really hadn't done a show since then. And a guy reached out to me that books me down there in this beach community. It's about an hour and a half south of LA. And I wanted to do stand-up so badly. And I was so curious what the layout would be that I took the gig. It was a paid gig, of course, too, but I took it. It was at a bar. I've done this show many, many times. I know the bartender. I know the wait staff. I wanted to see what was going to go down. Would there be a crowd? Would they all be wearing masks? What was going to be going down? And to my horror, the only person in the building wearing a mask was the waiter.
Holy shit!
Are we allowed to call them waitresses? The waitress.
Sure.
She had a mask on. The bartender, no mask. Nobody in the place with a mask. There's people at the bar. There's people playing pool. They're all over the place. They're outside on the patio. Nobody giving a fuck. People, I'm watching someone come into the bar and everyone's like, "Hey, Eddie," and going in to hug Eddie. I'm like, do you know where Eddie's been for the past 7 weeks? Why you're just going to hug this guy? No one's wearing a mask. Like, I don't know what I expected, but I just thought that people would be exercising a little bit of caution. So it was a good experience to me. I immediately knew what I needed to do, which was sit very far in the corner. I ordered my hamburger and fries, as I always do, and I ate that. I did my set. I went outside and waited to be paid, and I drove an hour back here. I didn't speak to the bartender after, which I always do because I adore that man. I didn't speak to anybody who watched the show or who was at the bar, which I always take pictures with people. I always interact with the people after that show. I like that little community down there in general. There's a lot of military people in that area as well, and they usually go to the show, and I support those guys. But I didn't hang around at all this time. I just got in my car and left, got paid, and I'm gonna write about it. I think I'll write a piece about this. I think So stand up when it comes back. What's going to happen? I really don't know, and I don't know when that's going to happen. I really don't know. I mean, in the area I live in, LA County, they're not going to allow that. Orange County doesn't give a fuck. Oh, but now we have riots. We have what else? We have protests going on. What is going to happen? Is there even a place for comedy right now? Who the hell is going to? I mean, there's just so many factors keeping comedy from being like a thing.
I agree 100% with you. That there's what I was interviewing. I don't know if you know or not, Rena Calm a couple days ago. And the one thing that she kept saying over and over that was really positive that I think a lot of people, especially in our business, need to know. She's like, the one thing that's true no matter what, comedy will always come back. We don't know how it's going to come back. We don't know when it's going to come back. But like you were saying earlier, to your point of like, we're the thermostat, we're the thermometer of like what can be done. They're going to need us at some point, but we don't know how that's going to be. And it's also going to be individual for each person. Like, I don't know that I would have taken that gig, or I don't know that I would have stayed, like if I had showed up. But I also have a little bit more on, I also have other concerns that you don't have. Like, I'm married and have 4 kids at home. Like I have, I don't know if you have a roommate. Yeah. I mean, I have other shit that I have to worry about.
Correct.
Other than,
you're not going to do that for $50. You're not going to do that.
No, I'm not going to do it for $50.
But for me too, you got to understand, for me, so I don't have any of those things, but also there's something else in me that gets me in trouble. And that is, I am a little bit of a shit. I'm a little bit of an anarchist. And I really enjoyed the opportunity to tell Orange County people on a microphone what idiots they are. And I did that on that show. I told them how I watched them on video protesting with their stupid "Open My Nail Salon" signs. And I gave them tons of shit. I gave them tons of shit for having the comedy show. Like, of course it's Orange County. Of course, you motherfuckers. If that nuclear power plant exploded, that's 4 miles away from you, you'd still be just chilling in flip flops, drinking at the bar. You're fucking ridiculous. I told them this to their face, and for me that was a thrill as well. I enjoyed that. I totally enjoyed that. But you gotta, so the show went pretty good because I know what the fuck I'm doing. You gotta, there's one thing to slap them in the face, but you gotta make it funny too. So there was a point where I told them, I watched you guys protesting on the news, and I thought it was ridiculous, and I zoomed in to see what your signs said. I'm like, what's so important that you need? So I need to get to I want to open the bowling alley, please, And then I'm giving him shit for making up some sign. Then I said, you know what sign I didn't see? I kept zooming, I kept looking. You know what sign I didn't see? We want stand-up comedy, assholes, so like, and they were like, so I got, I'm not going to just insult them. I'm going to bring them back to me as well, is my point, but in the moments leading up to that, I would give them shit, man, and then get a laugh out of it to bring them back in. The show was, the comic before me struggled because the comic before me just kind of talked about the virus only, really didn't really do any material. I don't know what that comic's typical material is, and if it's really just not appropriate given the circumstances. Because let's face it, if you're telling jokes about puppies and airplanes, like, how is that even going to fly right now? I mean, we're in the middle of the shit show. Like, your jokes just are going to seem so feeble and uninteresting and unrelevant, right? Irrelevant is. If your material could be irrelevant right now. Like, so he just was talking about the virus and what he's been doing, staying at home and this and that. And it was kind of funny, but you could tell it just, these are jokes that he never worked out before because he hasn't done a show in months and months. So he's just throwing things at the wall. So it was a bit of a struggle,
Have you done any Zoom stand-up shows?
Yeah, I've done maybe 5, and I really don't want to do them anymore. I turned down one for tomorrow night because I don't enjoy them whatsoever. They remind me of like open mics in New York, where you just be telling jokes invariably you're just telling jokes to the other comedians that are on the show. In my experience, I don't know, maybe there's some great Zoom shows where there's 30 audience all laughing uproariously at the same time. I haven't had that experience at all. All the shows have been very bleak and really makes you question, why the hell am I doing this? I'd rather not. It just makes me feel stupid.
Right. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had done a couple of shows, and he said a couple of them that he had done, they went really well, but what they had done is they had, like probably somewhere between 60, 100 people in on the call, which is great. And everybody's muted, but there's about 20 people that they leave unmuted. And then they actually paid some of those people to be laughters so that the comedians would have stuff that was going on. And it made it more like a show for the comedians and the other people going on, which is great. But, like if I'm producing that show right now, I don't have, I want to give all of my money that I have to Jonesy and the other comedians that I have on. I don't want to be giving any of my producing money off to people to laugh, money's tight enough as it is. I mean, I understand where they're going, but I don't know.
I would be more inclined to try a show like that. Cause I mean, at least I could walk away with it, like not feeling so crappy. Like I wasted an hour, I wasted an hour and a half in my apartment. Right. I could have been working on my podcast or something. Instead, I just talked to who the hell. I mean, I would try that, but in my experience, they've been so horrible that I would rather experiment with some other comedy related Zoom thing. Like, I don't know, we all play bingo and it's funny. The host is funny or something. I don't know. I just feel like that would be more fun. I mean, instead of just talk and like at your screen and feeling strange. I'd rather be involved in some game or trivia or something. I think that's more appropriate for this kind of format. To me,
Right.
doesn't seem right for stand up. It seems right for other things. In fact, it seems more right for other something else that's actually more interactive, where other people can give input. And I don't know. It doesn't seem right for stand-up to me after doing it a few times. To me.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, so real quick before I let you go, I do a little segment on this show called Ambushed. And what it is I have this envelope here. And like I said, I've got four kids, all girls. And so my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old daughters, they've written some words down in here. I have no idea what any of these words are.
Cool.
We're gonna pull them out and we'll just kind of bullshit, see where we go and what we come up with. How's that?
This is awesome. I like that.
All right. The first one is pants. Pants.
Oh, pants. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share something with you, Mike, that you may or may not know about me. I sometimes wear kids' pants because I'm a short guy and they're cheap and they fit me better a lot of the time. So yeah, I wear some kids' pants sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
When the last time you wore kids' pants, you were probably a kid.
I probably was. I'm 6 foot tall, so I don't.
Yeah, you're 6 foot tall. You haven't worked. I mean, you went right from the cradle to men's small.
Right.
You were like a 30 waist, 30 inseam at the age of 8.
Have you ever had? I was pretty tall, like going into 8th grade. Yeah. Have you ever had anybody like ever notice? Like or like if you ever pick something, you're like, that looks really cool and I like it, but people are clearly going to be able to tell those are kid pants.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I wear those sweatpants that say #1 team captain on them, I think they know they're children's. No, I do not own #1 team captain sweatpants. No one knows that I know of. No one knows that I know of. Just if I tell people.
Up until this point.
Up until this point. I got no shame, man.
Yeah, clearly.
When, they got sayings. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. When life gives you 29-inch hips, you wear Transformers pants, and you call it a day, my friend. I'm just dealing with the cards I've been dealt. Hey, man, have you been to the polo store? So you go to the polo outlet, right? The kid polo clothes are significantly cheaper than the adult. You can get yourself some nice polo gear if you're a small guy like me. A kid's XL polo hoodie. You know the difference in price between an adult hoodie and a polo.
It's gotta be $30 at least.
It's a huge difference. It's a huge price difference, man. It's a difference. Like one is 120 and the other one's 40. You're like, yeah.
Jesus,
unbelievable,
man. That makes me sad now because my oldest, who's 10, she's literally 5'3" already.
Oh man. She's almost as tall as me. Shit.
Yeah, she's gonna be an adult. Although women's clothes are typically cheaper than men's clothes, but I think the only reason that they're cheaper is because they buy so many of them. Like I have like 3 pair of jeans and that's it. Yeah, and I only wear like 2 of them.
I love that. Thanks for admitting that.
Yeah. Oh, I figured
we're guys.
You know what? I figured you were sharing. I should share. All right. Let's see what else we got in here.
I love this. I love this segment with your kids write something. I love that.
Cube. A cube. Yeah.
Cube, huh?
A cube. I'm trying to think of a cube. Did you ever have like a Rubik's Cube growing up? Were you ever into those? Or can you solve them?
Yeah, I had tinkered around with a Rubik's Cube as a young child. I remember, and struggling mightily with it. I could only do one side, maybe 2 sides.
Yeah,
but I've seen people. I've seen a guy on the train in New York City sit there. He had the cube. We all watched. He just took the thing, and he hit the button. He had timed himself too. He hit the button. And he went. And I swear to God, man, it was like, I don't know how fast it was, but like 15 seconds tops. This guy had done this Rubik's Cube right in front of all of us. Like, I couldn't believe it. So, I mean, if you ever could even solve it, I'm like, without taking the pieces off, then kudos to you. I mean, how?
No. How? I don't get it. It's funny. Listen to that story. Like, that's the kind of stuff that would make me not want to move out to LA. Because like living in Chicago, I get to see that type of shit on the train. Living in New York, you get to see that type of shit. Do you miss that type of stuff? I mean, I know there's lots of weird people out on the streets and whatnot there, but it's not the same being 3 feet away from them for 20 minutes. You know,
I miss the train. I don't miss it during a pandemic, but I miss the train.
No.
The train is the great equalizer, you know, like everybody takes it in New York. I loved that. Yeah. I loved being around the people. I missed it. I still miss that. People think it's crazy to say, oh, I miss the MTA, like, because it's a shit show, really. We all know. But I do miss that. That was really cool. The people that you would see, all walks of life, are on there. That was special.
Yeah. It's so funny. You'll appreciate this story being from Boston. So when I was out there and the Red Sox won the World Series, I was
04?
07. I lived in Jersey City, but I worked in Long Island City. So I would take the New Jersey Transit into 34th, and then I'd take the E out to Long Island City, and I'd get off at 22nd. I worked like a couple of blocks away from Astoria there. Anyway, Red Sox were always my AL team. I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I got all the Cubs stuff back here, but I was always a Sox fan. So I put my Red Sox hat in my backpack and took it to work, and I put it on at work, and so that I could just bust everybody's balls. But I didn't take it off on the way home. And it was the most uncomfortable ride because, as I'm sure you can attest, people don't really look at you or make contact with you on the train in New York at all. But on that day, everyone was looking at me and like giving me the stink eye, and I couldn't fucking figure it out why. And then I got home and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was wearing that Sox hat all day.
I never wore a Sox hat in New York. I just wouldn't do it.
Worth it.
Yeah, no way, man. I didn't want to have that same experience that you had. I mean, that's what's going to happen, man. You know, I mean, so I never did that.
Autonomy on the train is great. And then once you don't have it, you're like, what the fuck?
I'm really glad you did that, though. That's fabulous. See, now, if I had seen you on the train, I would have, you know what I would have done? I would have pretended I didn't know you. Like, this guy, I don't associate with this guy.
I don't know this guy. It's like, I don't know. Out your New York accent.
I would have, hey, this fucking Red Sox fan, are you kidding me? Fuck this guy, huh? Fuck you. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, before we get out of here, let's do one more. We got one more, a couple more here. We'll do one. Let's see. Okay. Paper. Are you, when you write, are you a pen and paper type of guy? Or are you a computer or iPhone type of guy?
Yeah, I like to, well, when it comes to jokes, when I'm working on them, and I have a notebook, and when I work on them, after I've tried them on stage, I listen, write them out, figure out what parts to keep, maybe add to it, come up with a couple more ideas. Like, I'll basically make bullet points and lists, like an outline on paper to, I should say this about the joke, this, let me make this point, and let me end on this. And I'll toy with these ideas. I'll make a list of things that I might want to talk about, and I will use a notebook. I do enjoy that. And I journal still. I still journal. Write in a notebook all the time, almost every day. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a writer with like paper, but now I use a pencil. So my favorite pen, this is my pen right here, it's the Gillette pen.
Pilot G2?
Yeah. So
the 05 or the 07?
I have no idea.
It should say 7.
Let's go with 7. Let's go with 7.
7, that's a little thicker. I like the 7 as well.
The problem with it, though, is it writes so smooth and so fast that I couldn't read it. So I actually went back to using pencil. So I would actually just use pencil and write. And what's crazy about that is I realized real quick, you know what places don't have anymore? Pencil sharpeners. Yeah, no.
Pencil sharpener.
Dude, you trying to ask somebody for a pencil sharpener anywhere at a bookstore or a coffee shop or whatnot, people look at you like you're fucking crazy, man.
Wow. Huh. Oh, that's good to know, man. I mean, if I want to kick it back old school, they don't have pencil sharpeners. You got to take a knife with you.
Whittle it down.
You got to whittle it down. Wow. Look at you using old school pencils. I love that, man. That's good for you. Good for you. Keep it going, man. Keep what's that company? Mead, whatever the pencil.
Mead. Oh my God. I can't believe you pulled Mead out. That's amazing.
Don't they make pencils? Who makes pencils? I don't remember. Mead, I think. I don't know.
Mead. It's Mead. Yeah, man.
Number 2 pencils. Shit. Do you remember like being in school and they would always insist that you use the number 2 pencil?
Yes, always. Got to be a number 2 pencil.
Number 2 pencil if you're taking a test. But like, I always thought that was just so ridiculous. Like, who the hell is like, oh, fuck, I got a number 7. I got a number 7. Does anybody have a 2? I just got a 7 and a 9. I got a 9. Like, who the fuck? They always made it a point. Number 2 pencil. Yeah, what other fucking pencils are we using here? You know, unless you're a draftsman, you're not using fucking number 11 pencils. Shut up.
Well, and is your teacher ever going to be like, excuse me, Mr. All, I can't accept this. This was not written in number 2.
I could tell it's a number 5, and it's a little too dark. It's a little too dark. You are. I can't accept your quiz.
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous. I wonder if that still happens in school. Pencils. I'm curious. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I have to get pencils for the girls every year to go to class.
Where do you guys get pencil sharpeners? Oh, that's.
Yeah. Well, now they have those little ones that you like turn it. Because like when I was growing up, we always had next to the phone that hung on the wall. I don't know if people remember that. The landline. So we had the landline.
I remember that.
And then we had next to it pencil and paper, and then an old school pencil sharpener that was like drilled into the desk that was a crank that you would stick it in and crank it.
I had that too. I remember that as a young boy, kindergarten, first grade, like grinding it out.
We always used to get in trouble because we would have races to see who could ground their pencil all the way down the fastest.
Oh yeah. That's not at all wasteful.
Not at all wasteful.
That's great. Good moments.
Oh, exactly. Hey, Mom, I need another number 2 pencil.
Yeah, the pencil races are beginning.
Oh, well, hey, man, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with me. It was great to catch up and kind of get caught up with you and dig into what you're doing now. And I had a good time. Thanks for coming on.
Mike, this has been a blast, man. It's so good to see you again. I'm really glad we get to catch up. I'm so happy to see that you got some kids now and you're safe in the north side of Chicago, man. I'm proud of you and I'm happy for you, and I'm glad you and your family are safe right now. Thank you for having me. And just for your listeners and viewers, the only thing I'm doing right now, if you want to follow me, is the podcast. So Weird AF News on any of your podcast players. I'm doing 5 days a week news, and just about to hit 800 episodes and 1 million downloads. So been keeping up with that. So that's something that'll be ongoing. If you like comedy and weird news, strange, ridiculous news, especially out of Florida, then you'll love Weird AF News. Weird
AF News. Go and find it. So awesome, man. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.